Hello, everyone. This is Phil Keaggy, and you're listening to Between the Songs podcast.
Wonderful.
Would you
Perfect.
like another one with a different accent?
Oh yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
yeah.
I'll definitely take a Beatle
A
accent.
Beatle.
Hello, this is Ringo. No. Hello, everybody. Great to be with you all. I want you to be in touch with the podcast that actually is very, very, very exciting. Oh, I morphed into Jerry Lewis. Sorry.
And go all over the map. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man.
See, take these mugs for a ride.
That's great. Well, welcome to Between the Songs. We have an incredible episode today, a long interview with Phil Keaggy, the music legend, guitarist, songwriter, all around. I mean, I have to say, nice guy, loving guy who loves Jesus. And we just have a wonderful conversation with him today, primarily about the deluxe reissue of his classic album, Love Broke Thru. It's now 50 years old, and they're doing a Kickstarter. And there's a good chance you're listening to this episode when the Kickstarter is still live. But there's also a good chance that you've missed that window, and that's going to be okay too. We were able to schedule this interview right at the tail end of their Kickstarter campaign. And hey, who knows? Maybe somebody will listen to this and think, oh, I didn't even know that was out there. If not, then you get to hear some insights about this classic album. Love Broke Thru came out in 1975, and they're doing a double vinyl and 4 CDs. I believe one is the CD itself of the album, but also 3 extra bonus discs. So we have a long conversation about that, but also we go into different areas on Phil Keaggy's career. Also, Rich Mullins comes up. We wanted to make sure we talked to him about his history and his relationship with Rich Mullins. So anyway, here you go. Joe, had you ever listened to this album before, Love Broke Thru?
I have heard the album before. It's been years. I listened to it again a couple times this week. I mean, what can you say other than it's a classic, right? It's Phil Keaggy, Love Broke Thru.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Phil Keaggy albums. You can hear Phil Keaggy where it definitely feels like him in the studio. He's playing acoustic and he's layering the guitar tracks. There's also Phil Keaggy like with a band, and it's like it feels like a band. Now this album, Love Broke Thru, kind of feels like that, but it is just a tight album. It's incredibly orchestrated.
It's a bigger record, it feels
it's a
like.
bigger record, yeah. So in that sense, I think it was a good idea that they're reissuing it, and I'm excited for when it comes in the mail. You know what I forgot to ask him? When is our vinyl going to be delivered? So, because you never know these days, right? You don't know how long things will take. It seems like there's always some delay with the manufacturing companies. But anyway, I forgot to ask him if they had any estimates on that. But here, maybe we'll call them back up later. Okay.
It was for you and me. I mean, was this not a bucket list item for you to get to talk to another one of your musical heroes?
Yeah, I have a decently long bucket list of interviews, and I'm doing pretty good on the contemporary Christian music realm. When it comes to like interviewing filmmakers and comedians, less of them are being checked off. But yeah, we've talked to Steve Taylor and Russ Taff, and yes, Phil Keaggy was like top of the list for me. Absolutely.
And you mentioned that we had the chance to talk to him a little bit about Rich Mullins. That to me was something that I've always wanted to do because other than like a little snippet of an interview in like some of the documentaries over the years and things like that, I really didn't know much about Phil's relationship with Rich other than I knew that they knew each other. I knew that ultimately led to Phil being on the Jesus record. But it was really, really cool to kind of go back and hear kind of how Rich became on his radar and get some of his thoughts on Rich's music and his life. And so I think people, especially Rich Mullins fans who tune into this podcast, are going to really enjoy what we've got coming.
Yeah, and it's also in the realm of like one of your questions, especially, is in the realm of what could have been, right? And
Yeah.
and even Phil reflects in his own life, he's had a lot of loss, people that have since gone. And, of course, as we get older, that happens. But when it comes to Rich Mullins, we think about, those potential albums that never came to be. And we just kind of have to accept that. And that's okay.
You and I were just having that conversation on an episode of the Revisited podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, about Brothers Keeper and what could have, there could have been 3 or 4 other albums like Brothers Keeper easily, if not 20.
What might a Phil Keaggy, Rich Mullins record have been like? I mean, what an amazing possibility.
That would have been
and
fun. Yeah.
Kind of like really a big bummer that we didn't get that. I know there are certainly bigger problems in the world, and I don't want to, but it's a shame.
Yeah, yeah. Before we get to the interview, one other thing that I wanted to say, and he does come up in the interview a few times, is the guy Tom Galata. And I kind of want to bring him up, Joe, because in some senses, and I don't know very much about Tom, so I'm really speaking this as a complete outsider, but he's a little bit like us in the sense that he's obviously a fan. He has some expertise in the music industry. He knows his stuff. And here he is. Here's this guy. I should actually explain who he is. He's put together Phil Keaggy's Bandcamp page and is running this Kickstarter. He's also worked with Daniel Amos, helping them get their albums reissued. I think what I want to bring up is the amount of work that goes into putting up all kinds of bootleg albums, demo albums, rarity albums from Phil Keaggy, and then also an incredibly nice looking campaign for Kickstarter, reissuing all these songs. And, for us, we've kind of been fascinated with that in the realm of Rich Mullins. Like, is there a way to get some of the demos, the older music, if not physically released, right? Which is difficult and is another hurdle. We've seen a little bit of that. We got a taste of that, with the Deep Valley release, and there's Bellsburg and all of that, which did contain some of these older recordings that we've tried to kind of steward into people's lives. Now, these are available on, Beth Snow Lutz's page and, also on the Ragamuffin archive page. But it's just kind of I'm kind of fascinated with what it takes to bring this stuff out into the public.
Well, he's kind of living our dream, in that he is
right.
He's doing it officially. He got the blessing of the artist to go out there and put this music into the world in an official way, which is something, I know we have certainly talked about and dreamed of, and we've got to be a small part of, but I mean, there's a guy I think would just be interesting to talk to himself, just to really know like how he sort of fell into that position to be able to do that. And because I'm signed up for Keaggy's Garage. It is amazing.
Is it subscription? Is it like a certain amount every month or something like that?
So you can go in and listen to everything, like Bandcamp. It just, you can stream everything on Bandcamp without being a member. But if you subscribe, I have a subscription. It's I think it's $10 a month or whatever you choose to give, and you then can download everything. You can have MP3s or lossless quality of, and I mean hundreds of releases. I kind of mentioned this to Phil, and it's sort of the truth. There's so much there, I'll never be able to listen to it all in a lifetime, but it's really fun to just go through there and dig through everything. It's how I put together the special that I did a few months back for Phil's birthday. I did a revisited episode where we played all of Phil's Beatles covers, and there's just tons of these, rare concert recordings up on his Bandcamp. And, at this particular show, Phil might have played Day Tripper, or maybe he played P.S. I Love You. And so if you go through there were so many Beatles covers that in 2 hours, there were still a few I couldn't fit in.
Yeah. Well, and, on one hand, I want to say to Tom Galata and to Phil, with the Bandcamp page, I want to say, you guys are out of control. You guys... What have you done? It's insane. At the same time, I have another friend. His name is Ethan Beckler, and he's a Phil Keaggy super fan. And I kind of got to ask him one of his questions. I asked my friend Ethan, I was like, do you have a question you'd want to ask Phil? And it was about other reissues, right? Talking about Sunday's Child. And you asked about Crimson and Blue as well. My friend Ethan, he would send me CDs of bootleg copies of different live concerts, right? So, like, this is the kind of thing that fans have done with not just Phil Keaggy, but many other bands, whether it's Grateful Dead or Fish or Pearl Jam or Bruce Springsteen, right? They have all these different versions of things out there. So, on one hand, the Bandcamp page is out of control. But on the other hand, it's just this incredible, I mean, it's overwhelming resource. And I like how you and Phil, you guys, if you listen carefully enough, you give us some good recommendations. It might be too overwhelming to just like try to listen to everything, but if you have a few smatterings of recommendations, that might be a place to start if you want to benefit from the Bandcamp page. Phil's Garage.
Yeah, well, what I love to do is I love to just, when I get in the car, I sync up my phone with, my car stereo, and I'll just open up the Bandcamp app, and I'll just go into my collection there, and I'll find sometimes I'll just take one of Phil's albums or concerts at random, and then that's just my car ride. Because sometimes I don't want to think about it. There's too much to dig through. Here's one I've never listened to, put it on. And there's just so much great stuff on there. He mentions in the interview a series called Backroom Tracks. There's a bunch of those compilations on there that are just wonderful. Some obscure studio recordings and collaborations with different people. And there's some really, really cool stuff in there. Stuff you wouldn't expect. His cover of My Sweet Lord or...
Oh, I was just gonna say that. Of all the Phil covers that I go to, I listen to his version of Harrison's My Sweet Lord because, and this is so, I don't know if people find this cheesy or if it's almost sacrilegious, but Phil Keaggy does the Christian version of My Sweet Lord. And I like it. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I love that. That's the one I go back to.
It is a great cover. And I'll tell you what I love about it too is that musically, I love it when an artist will take a song and reinvent it, musically. Yeah. But My Sweet Lord, I've heard it done by a lot of artists and in different arrangements, and it almost never lives up to the Harrison version. You have to have that guitar solo in My Sweet Lord. It makes the song. Phil's is a very faithful cover musically. It is so good.
So good. Yeah, so if you want to feel at peace with the Christian version, go find. I can't remember where it's at though. It's on there somewhere.
I don't remember which volume, but it is in one of the Backroom Tracks volumes.
Backroom Tracks.
And if you go on Bandcamp and just search Phil Keaggy, My Sweet Lord, the track will come up.
There you go. Well, here you go. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. And again, if you need to go search for it, it is Phil Keaggy, Love Broke Thru 50th Anniversary Kickstarter, if there's still time to support it. Otherwise, enjoy this conversation about Love Broke Thru, Rich Mullins, and Phil Keaggy's long and amazing career. It's wonderful to have you here with us, Phil. I was joking with Joe here that you don't need our help to promote this Kickstarter because you have it fully funded and it's been a massive success. How are you feeling about it? I mean, it's been wonderful to watch all the updates and everything.
Well, I guess how I feel about it is I'm kind of amazed because about 9 years ago, we did a Kickstarter for an indie album that I did called All at Once. And I think we were able to raise $30,000 toward the making of that. And we had about 250 albums made. It was a double LP. And they lasted like 3 years. They didn't sell very well. Of course, we didn't have distribution either. We didn't really have marketing either. But Tom Galata who is my friend he worked full-time for Reelin' in the Ears company, which did a lot of documentaries of music of the British invasion, jazz, and you name it, interviews and everything. Well, he still works with them part-time, but he's been involved in my Bandcamp and my Patreon. And he's the one that got this whole Kickstarter thing going. He worked with the guys from, Daniel Amos, Terry Taylor, Lost Dogs. They did a Kickstarter, and I think they raised $140,000. I couldn't believe it. That means they have a lot of people out there that care for their music, So I think what it was is people really care for this album, the Love Broke Thru album. And I've been revisiting it, making alternate mixes, because I had the original 2-inch tapes, had them digitized. And listening to these tracks just took me back to those days. So I think people are really wanting to hear this album afresh again, because it has not been on LP since it was first released.
It's interesting. I can't remember where I got this copy. I was born in 81. So okay. This album, totally not available to me. I went to Christian bookstores growing up. This was not an album on the shelves. And what I think is funny about this is look at it. Look how it's come to me.
Oh, my.
And there's even a little sticker. It says, not perfect condition. And so I can't remember if I found this at a Goodwill somewhere or something like that, or my father-in-law might have gotten it to me. But another problem with it is the first song, Love Broke Thru. It's a little warped. There's a little bit of a curve in my old LP here. So I can understand the need to do a reissue of it,
Oh yeah. And when do you hear these alternate mixes and from the tapes? The isolated vocals with Matthew and Annie.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And Mylon Lefevre, myself singing. And it was just such a beautiful experience making that record. It had been 3 years since I did What a Day, which was an album I did all by myself, just me and an engineer. And it sat kind of looking for a home, a label for a year and a half. And then it came out on this New Song label. I think what you have there is the New Song.
It's a New Song. Yeah, I don't know who that is. What can you tell about them?
Well, it's interesting that the original album had a flower, a rose for the label. And I noticed that pressing didn't have it, did it? No, look at that.
It doesn't have that. No.
That's very odd, because I didn't even know they manufactured that album with that label.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Did you ever see the original label?
I don't think I did. I mean, here's the rose here, in its own form. But no, I don't think so. No.
Don't go away. I'll be right back. Okay, hang on.
He's got all the copies,
We're getting a mini studio tour here too.
There you go. Right. The archives.
Oh yeah. I've got. This is my room. This is my room that I make music in the last 30.
Kegworth Studios.
Yeah. I love this room, and I started recording in here when we moved in, like in 1989. So I've been here a long time. So here's a copy, and then he's a relative of mine.
Okay, that's right.
Actually, my son looks just like me when I was young.
Oh. There's the rose. I like that a lot more, actually. That's great.
Oh, I do too. You can see the New Song logo.
Yeah.
And then a label named Nissi, which was my manager during the mid '80s, they released it on the Nissi album. Chris, I've got 3 copies of Love Broke Thru. I'd be glad to get one to you, so you can have the original.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Be happy to do that. They're pretty rare. They're hard to find.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I have the Kickstarter ordered. I have that. So.
Oh my goodness! Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's. I'm looking forward to it. I guess I have a question.
Yeah.
In one of your videos, you said, "Oh my goodness! Look! Listen how young my voice is. Right? Like how young I sound." Take us back. What were you going through at that point in your life? You had gotten saved. You had been part of a religious community, but there had been a little bit of a break. Like, what was leading up to the release and to the recording of Love Broke Thru?
Well, recorded What a Day in January of 1973.
What a day that will be
basically did the album within a week. And Gary Hedden was my engineer and co-producer. Fantastic and talented man. Later that year, in the summer of 73, I married my bride, Bernadette. We just celebrated our 52nd anniversary this month. And she's a gem. She's a wonderful lady. And then we lived in Ohio, which was our home state, till the next year. And during that time, I had, of course, I left the Glass Harp in 72. Then 6 months later, did What a Day. And then in the summer of 74, we moved from Warren, Ohio, up to near Ithaca, New York, specifically Freeville, New York. And we were part of the Scott Ross, ministry called Love In. And what happened during 1975, 76, and 77, we were expecting a child in 1975. And in November, my wife went into labor maybe 3.5 months early and found out that they were triplet boys, 3 boys, and they died. They died. Two were born without living, and then one was alive for a short time. So that really was a great heartache for us. It was really hard because we were young and all our friends were having kids. And when I go back to those days, I remember finding poetry that really meant something to me, like Disappointment. His Appointment is on the Love Broke Thru album. And I thought, well, God has other plans. And so there was another song called Wild Horse. I was struggling with this whole discipleship thing, wanting to yield and be a faithful servant to Jesus, but I had some issues with the authoritarian things that were going on too.
In the distance, there stands a wild horse, proud and persistent, to run his own course, entering through no other doors but those he has made for himself.
Buck Herring got a hold of me because he wanted me to play on their second chapter of Acts, their second album, called In the Volume of the Book, which is a classic album. I love that album. I love the first one too, but I got to play guitar throughout the whole album on In the Volume of the Book. Remember Yahweh? Remember that song?
I love the your work with Matthew Ward on his album as well.
Thank you.
That's one of my favorites, actually. Yeah.
Oh man, what a great album! And I wrote Noah's song for him, but I eventually ended up recording it myself. So Buck got a hold of me, and I got to play on this album. And then that was January 75, and then came home, and then a year goes round. So winter of 76, Buck gets a hold of me. And he said, I'd love to produce you, And so I thought, wow, what a wonderful experience that could be. So Bernadette and I went out to California from New York, and I had made some demos, sent them to him. I don't know how he heard Time, because I can't find a demo of Time, but I may have just sung it to him on the phone, and he liked it. And so I sent him Wild Horse and Portrait and Disappointment and Just the Same, Today, and Things I Will Do, and also the C.S. Lewis poem, As the Ruin Falls. And it seemed like the album is kind of ballad heavy to me, but there are a couple things on it that rock, like Take Me Closer is a great groove, and Time, and Just the Same. After we just arrived, Bern and I, Keith Green comes, marching in his house, and, and his hair going, and he said, I got to play this song for you. And it was Your Love Broke Through that he had just finished writing with Randy Stonehill and Todd Fishkind. And he sat at Annie's upright piano in the music room. And as he's singing the song, he's just looking into my eyes. It was really amazing because that's the first time I ever heard the song. And of course, the way he sings it, so passionately, I was blown away. And then Buck said, brother, we got to record this song. And so what happens next is Keith ushers me out. And so I took my guitar, my Les Paul, and my Strat. I went to a small studio, and we did 3 demos, and Your Love Broke Through was one of them. So I got to play on Keith's very demo, his own demo of that classic song, and 2 other songs. And then Buck and Annie had written a song called Abraham, and we put that on as a closer to side B of the album. And there we had it. We had, 10 songs. And it was really, when it came out, it was really embraced by a lot of folks. They loved the album. And I put a band together, and we went on the road and did the What a Day and the Love Broke Through songs. Eventually, we wrote songs that went into Emerging, which was the 3rd album I did under my name.
When I listened to this, and as I was reviewing it, I was kind of struck with how it sounded big budget. And did it feel like that? Like maybe it has to do with the strings or the layering of the vocals, but like when I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds like, they must have thrown all kinds of money at this album. Or was it that way? Or is it just like, was it the soundboard? What do you think that is?
I don't think the album, I don't think it cost more than $12,000 total.
Sure. Yeah.
Buck paid, he paid the musicians well. There were string players. Michael O'Mardian did the strings, and he did the conducting. Basic tracks were recorded at Sunwest Studios, which was a very happening place, Who's Who recorded at that studio in Hollywood. And then we did all the overdubs at Buck's studio, which was called Frog Shoes, in his home, studio in his home. It was in his garage. And so that's where we did the vocals. I did my lead overdubs. A lot of stuff was, there was some jams and outtakes, and I played live with the guys. And when I talk about the guys, I'm talking about A-team players that helped make this album sound so good. That was Leland Sklar on bass. He's a phenomenal bass player, so intuitive. Jim Gordon on drums. He had such a swing and a bounce to his playing. It's just a joy to listen to him play. And God rest his soul. And Larry Knechtel played organ and piano. And of course, he was in the group Bread, and he played on The Association. Never My Love, that beautiful solo, that organ solo. That was primarily the core of the band. And we got a flautist to play on As the Ruin Falls. But it was, because my first solo album was just it was recorded to 16-track, 2-inch tape. And this album was recorded to 2-inch tape, 16 tracks as well. But Buck really knew how to engineer. I mean, when you listen to these tracks, they sound really good. The fidelity is really fine. And he had fine mics. He had a great board. Because he was an engineer and the producer, he had his own studio. I think that really helped with the budget.
Yeah, in one of the extra videos, I've really enjoyed the vocal harmonies. I mean, you had Mylon Lefevre and Annie here. I mean, it was just really astounding to listen to the vocals. I mean, I loved it.
These are the things I will do and I will not leave them undone. These are the things I will do, I will do, I will do, and I will not leave them undone.
Joe and I, we love the Beatles anthologies, right? And we've always kind of been fascinated with that process. This is your chance to kind of do your version of that. And of course, I mean, we could be here hours if we got into your Bandcamp page.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
we could be here several days.
Which I'm a huge fan of Keaggy's Garage. It is massive. I'll never be able to listen to it all in my life, but I'm going to try. I found a concert on there from my high school that was recorded at my high school. Like, I wasn't even in high school yet. I think it was like 1991. Vineland High School, Vineland, New Jersey. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tom Galata, who puts up all these live concerts, I've only heard 5% of it, really. Very, very. I just don't listen to my live stuff that much. I listen to the albums that I work on. It's because you're really trying to hone something good. But there are special moments in those live concerts, and he says you wouldn't believe the people that are so excited when they see the city that they lived in and they went to that concert. Yeah, just Joe is saying, yeah, it is kind of special. Or they'll say, I was there, I was at that concert. And that's pretty special too. So it brings back the memory. You hear music, like in my life, the music I grew up as a kid listening. When I hear those songs before I became a songwriter myself, it takes me back to my childhood. I could see the toys I was playing with. I could see the car my dad was driving. I could see the fields, the trees. It also brings back all these emotions, and that's why music is so special, especially when it's associated with an experience with God. I really believe it. A song I wrote back in the glass harp days called "The Answer." That song has meant a lot to a lot of people, and it's such a simple little song. But when I hear it, it takes me back, and I'm all of a sudden I'm 20 years old again. And Can You See Me on the glass harp first album?
I have this right here.
There it is.
Yeah.
Well,
that one.
The bridge, Can You See Me? It says, "For I know that it's hard to see all the things we ought to see. Many things we cannot see are there. The Son died for you and me that we may live eternally. Through him, there is a peace we can share." I changed those words to those words. It used to be different words in the studio while singing the lead vocal there. I'm sure glad I did, because it's all my life as a Christian. The most important thing for me is to know that I am being faithful to Jesus and the gospel, to let people know of the good news that God loves them, that Jesus really did come to this earth and die for our sins and sets us free and gives us hope. That's my main thing. And along the way, I got to play guitar, and I got better at it. Got to play with great players and work with great artists and co-write with great writers. And I can't thank God enough for the experiences I've had as a musician for Christ, so.
Yeah. You know what? Since you went in that direction, let me ask you one of my maybe more closing questions. But I know that you've mentored younger musicians, like you know Rachel Wilhelm. You also I know Jeremy Casella as well.
Oh, I love Jeremy. What a great brother. We're close friends. Yes.
Yeah. And I really appreciated your Pilgrimage album. I really like this. This is like my groove here. This kind of thing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I brought on Jeremy to contribute his beautiful voice to the album. In fact, I had sung all the songs originally, and I thought, no, this album needs people, other singers.
As calm as a summer sea, the sunrise of my heart's release. Upon that shore I am at ease. I found the prince
it's a duets album. I love that. I love that concept.
And all the lyrics were written by the great author Kevin Belmonte. He should be a bestseller with his books. He's done biographies mainly, and he's got a great heart.
High on the hill of Calvary, death broken and despair, redemption bringing healing in a sinner's prayer, a sinner's prayer.
He just finished a book on C.S. Lewis, Spurgeon, Chesterton, William Wilberforce. But those are some of the biographies he's done. And he started sending me some of his Christmas poetry. And I thought, oh, I'll put that to a melody. And I sent it to him. And he sent me some more. And then I said, I think we got an album here. And
That's great.
worked on it over time. And I got Steve Brewster to play drums on it. And he's a fantastic drummer. I don't think it has keyboards anywhere on it. It's pretty much a guitar, bass, vocal, drums album. And it's lovely in its acoustic fashion, I think. We've got Steve Bell to sing on it.
Yeah, I love Steve Bell. Yeah.
My other great friend, Rex Schnelly.
Okay.
Rex Ball. He sings, it's track 3, I think. Anyway, forgot. What's track 3?
Well, track 3 is Morning of My Seeking.
Oh, no.
And he sang Eagle and Child. Is that what he sang?
No, Eagle and Child was, he's with me on Eagle and Child.
Oh, and Pilgrim's Way, track 5.
Track 5 is Rex in that lead to that, and his voice is just fantastic. And Rachel did a beautiful job on the Christ Child.
One thing I was wondering is, looking back over your life, you've mentored younger musicians, younger people. How has your own faith matured? And even for like those of us of the younger generation or whatever, we've experienced our own struggles, our own disillusionment. You know, what insights can you offer us in terms of keeping faith? How has your faith changed over the years? I've been through some stuff. Joe's been through some stuff. How do you tend to help the younger folk like us?
I think the main thing is to keep your eyes on not only Jesus, as it says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, but looking to him in his faithfulness, because we oftentimes get tossed this way and that way. But if we keep firm in trusting him, I think that enriches our life. It strengthens our life, gives us the ability to encourage others who are weak at that time. And when we all go through our weaknesses, we look to somebody to help us. And it's Jesus in them, God in them, helping us. I love that verse in the Psalms. It says, the Lord is for me among those who help me. I love that. So I think the most important thing is not to isolate yourself, except when you want to get alone with God. Then you're not isolated. You're with God, and sometimes that's what it takes. We just need to be quiet to be able to, I don't hear any voices. I don't hear God speaking in an audible voice to me, but I feel these impressions and I have a conscience that he speaks to. And I think to encourage my younger brothers and sisters is don't let anything dissuade you from believing in the scriptures, the word of God, because these are the words you can rely on, you can count on. And then walk in fellowship with others that believe as you do. That way you can be a blessing to those around you, even without sometimes saying a word. Just God's presence in your life can affect people in a good way, in a positive way. And then when they ask you, hey, what's with you? You're different. Or how are you dealing with this? I don't know if I could deal with it this way. You say it's God that gives a greater grace. And then keep music alive in your life, because whether you're a player, a musician or not, music is so important. What doesn't it say somewhere that God sang the stars into existence?
Yeah.
Is that in scripture?
You're testing me. Yeah, I want to say yes.
or J.R.R. Tolkien.
Well, one of my favorite books is The Silmarillion by Tolkien, and he has this whole thing in there about God singing the whole creation into being. I mean, it's one of my favorite passages. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I have that book. My good friend John Safara great drummer.
Yeah.
He gave it to me. By the way, if John happens to see this interview, I want to say, I love you, John. I also love you, Daniel. You know, my bandmates from the day back, way back when.
To get back to Love Broke Through just a little bit, are there any particular tracks that you're excited that, finally get to see the light of day? And relatedly, I know it's a double disc vinyl. Is the second disc extras, or are you spreading out the album over 2 discs?
No, it will be, the first disc will be as it was originally.
Yeah, as it was. Yeah.
5 songs per side. The second disc is going to have, I believe, some of the outtakes. There's Isaiah 25. That was one of the songs. There's where the chorus is, he will remove the veil from the people, that kind of thing. And on this mountain, I forgot what the scripture is, but that's one of the songs. And the song Send Out Your Light is on probably the second disc. There was also a song called Looking for Treasures. So I think the outtakes will be there. It's possible that the best of some of the alternate mixes might be there. And I have a 45 RPM of time. And if you can believe it, I was able to edit down from 7 minutes down to just under 5 minutes, the single of time.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that extra disc that people can purchase. Yeah, I saw that.
Uh-huh. And there'll be 4 CDs, which will be the alternate mixes and snippets. Also, there'll be a disc of the demos I'd done in my home, and also in the Scott Ross studio where he used to do his show. They had a couple Revox machines, and Peter Hopper engineered it for me. Peter was the fellow that helped get the PKB running, the Phil Keaggy band up and going. Talented man too. It should be something enjoyable to have, to cherry, to listen to.
I'm glad you brought up Time. That's one of my favorite tracks of yours, but also of that album. And there's also How the West Has Won, right? It's like the live. There's different versions of it out there. There's even a TV version. I don't even know where that came from, but it's on your YouTube page. It's you live in the studio, some kind of television program. What was that program?
It was either the Ross Bagley show,
okay,
or it could have been the PTL show. I can't remember. It might have been CBN.
Yeah, okay.
It was about 1980, and it was with the new group that I started touring with called Cross Section. We were all based out of Kansas City. Jim DeLong, Lee Jones, Dan Murdoch, and Kurt Bartlett. We were the band. That was about 1980.
Name is time. Where will you be, my friend?
But then there was another version of Time that was recorded at Weddington Studio around the time I had done the Getting Closer album. And it starts off with Smitty Price and a real foreboding. Did you ever hear that? I think it's
I've never heard that one. No.
It might be on the Bandcamp somewhere.
Okay.
Maybe one of the backroom tracks. There's 15 volumes now.
Okay.
Backroom tracks. And a lot of those backroom tracks, there are a lot of demos that ended up becoming the newly recorded again, in more of a high quality fashion. And I actually did Time also with Rex Paul. We did an album called Illumination. Have you ever heard of it?
I think no, but I will look into it.
Yeah, it's on the Bandcamp site.
Okay.
And I think it's on Spotify. It might be. And definitely on YouTube. Rex and I did this album, and he's a genius. He can play the drums, the bass, the keys. He's got a fabulous voice, and we love working together. We've done stuff since the album, but that we did an album. We cut songs that we wrote together, and then there was a song that I had written in 1971, and I only remembered the chorus to it, so we rewrote the verses. It's called "I Believe," and then we did Time, and it rocks. And we're both shredding on guitar, trading off licks back and forth. And we also cut "Spend My Life with You," did a remake of that, and Let Everything Else Go, did a remake of that. And there was another one, Full Circle. We did these 4 songs that were from my past, and then we added, I guess, 6 or 7 of our own songs. He wrote one of them with Tom Douglas. But it's fun. You should hear it. In fact, on YouTube, if you look up Rex Paul and Phil Keaggy doing time together, we're singing live and playing live to a track at the Dark Horse Studio. This was done in 2018, I believe.
Okay. I think I see it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the interesting things about Keaggy's Garage too, when you start digging through all that stuff, is all the kind of different iterations of songs throughout the years, whether it's live or different studio versions. There was a song of yours I loved. It came out in the 2000s at some point. I think it was on a compilation record, and a beautiful Easter song called "He Is Risen."
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, I wrote that song in 1971.
Well, that's exactly. I was shocked to find that out, because the demo is on I think the 50th anniversary. What a Day!
It is. Yeah, that's right. I don't know why I never put that on an album in a proper way. I should have. I love it. I remember writing it. I remember it was around Good Friday that I wrote it in 1971. Living in Ohio, touring with Glass Harp. And then I came up with this song probably to sing in church or something. It changes tempo in the verses from the chorus.
He's risen, yes, he is risen, and he's still alive today. He is risen, yes, he is risen. Listen as he says, let not your heart be troubled, believe in me. I go to prepare a place, so where I am, you may be.
Oh, it is a beautiful song. I used to work for years. I worked in an oldies radio station in New Jersey, and on Easter Sunday, I would always open the show with that song on every Easter Sunday.
Yo, thank you. Wow, how nice is that? That's wonderful to hear.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I have a question that I don't even know how you can answer this. Maybe this is one of these things that you'll be like, you know what, it's just a mystery. But I have to ask this. And here's the essential question. What goes into a good jam? And one of the reasons I ask that is I've been listening to Time, man. I'm obsessed with that song. And I hear it change. It goes in like 4 different directions. And what I'm curious about is a good jam just in the moment? Or do you ever do orchestrating where you kind of like, we're going to go this direction here? Or does it just vary from recording to recording?
That's a great question, and it's one I love to think about,
Okay.
to ponder over, because Glass Harp was a jam band.
Yeah.
Our best moments were when we created something live on the spot, like that big long "Can You See Me" that we did at Carnegie Hall, which Carnegie Hall Live will come out too, from the Kickstarter thing, which I'm excited about. I love music that's also very organized and written, specifically for the arrangement's sake. For instance, recently, my Bandcamp, we put out this jam album called Up All Night with Tommy Coombs from Love Song, his 2 sons, Tyler and Eric. And Eric plays bass with the group called Let Us, and they're a fabulous band. And Tyler is a producer and a phenomenal drummer. They're both great musicians, and they lost their mom a year and a half ago. And so we would get together and just jam. It was part of, you could say, therapy for the boys. And, Tyler's early 50s, like 51, and Eric is about 48. And I'm Uncle Philly to them. And they say, "Hey, Uncle Philly, can we come over and just jam? It would really do our hearts good." I said, "Sure, come on over." So over, a period of time, we collected these jams, and nothing was pre-written. And it's amazing how fun they are. And then I did 5 recordings with a group that I play in the studio with, music tellers. We call ourselves music tellers, and that's on my Bandcamp site. Everything on those albums is improvised. Nothing's pre-written. We just say, what key, I'll meet you in the key of E or A or D. And, or someone will start playing something and we'll just all follow. The newest one just came out. It's called Speaking in Song. And we did that album within 4 hours, an entire album. And then I just added a couple overdub leads. But then I just spent time editing and mixing. And those were jams, but because of the contribution of a cello, bass, percussion, drums, woodwinds, and keys, all playing live at once, it's just remarkable. The textures, I love it. Now, when it comes to like just rocking out and jamming, sometimes it's just really fantastic. I recently met a new guitarist. We've become good friends, and his name is Greg Hagan, and he plays guitar for Leanne Rimes and tours with her. But he's a great guitar player and great voice. And we played a little local thing here not too long ago, and we got jamming on these old rockers, these old songs from the 70s, and jamming back and forth. And sometimes other people's playing inspires you and brings these things out in you as a musician. And that's what Daniel and John from Glass Harp used to do. They made me a better guitar player just by playing with them,
There was one on your Bandcamp that I just loved, and it's like it was you. I'm trying to think. It was you, Tony Levin, and Jerry Marotta, I think. It's called the Original Bucket List Jams, and it was just you guys jamming for like a half hour in Wayne, New Jersey.
That's
it. But it's so great because the tracks are Jam 1, Jam 2, Jam 3. And awesome.
And the first jam starts off with the Pink Panther theme.
Yes, it does.
Anyway. Oh, that's the day I met Tony and Jerry for the first time.
Wow.
I'd listened to them over the years, and I just love their playing, their musicianship. I felt kind of intimidated. Here I did this acoustic concert, and our friend Paul Grimslin gathers those guys. Tony brings his kit. Tony brings his bass, Jerry brings his kit, and they set up. And right in the middle of my concert, we just started playing. And then we ended up going into Jerry's studio in Woodstock, New York, and just jammed over 3 days. And then I came back to Nashville, and we all forgot about it. And then 8 years later, Paul Grimslin says, I got to get a hard drive to you of this stuff. We got to do something with it. So I imported it into my Pro Tools and listened to it and started adding, lead guitar parts or whatever, and shaping these jams into songs. And it's called The Bucket List. And, I think it's a wonderful and fun album. Really is. It's a lot of fun. And it never will get the attention that I think it deserves, but I think it's really a fun album. And those guys, we did do 5 dates together in Woodstock and New Hampshire. There's a place in Pennsylvania close to Philadelphia, Sellersville. And we played there. I played there with Tony and Jerry. Man,
Any other plans for future reissues with some of your other albums? I'm just curious if there's more along those lines after you're done with Love Broke Thru.
And please say Crimson and Blue.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't think I have the multi-tracks to that album. Isn't that sad?
Oh no.
I've got Finding These Fields. I don't have Sunday's Child either.
You don't have Sunday's Child. Yeah, that's another one I was wondering too, is Sunday's Child or Crimson and Blue. Yeah.
I don't know how I'd get them because the people that used to work at those record companies, I don't think they're there anymore. And it'd be fun to find out if someone did have those, but
Yeah. So that would make the difference, is what you're saying, like having the actual, master tracks. Yeah.
master
Yeah.
tracks so that they
Man.
mixed. I think Crimson and Blue, as fun as that album is, it really suffered sonically, in my opinion, a little bit.
Wow.
Back when we had Doug Sachs master it out in Hollywood, he looked at us and he says, "Boys," because we were still kind of boys in those days. He said, "I hate to tell you this, but you need to go back and remix this album. I don't know." And then my co-producer Lynn Nichols said, "We ran out of money," and then he said, "Okay, I'll see what I can do." But there are great moments on that. I mean, gee, the blue version of Crimson and Blue had doing nothing at all, and I'm wailing on the Strat on the ending of that. And John the Revelator, there was 2 different versions of that. I've actually done 4 different versions of John the Revelator. My band has all of them, One is kind of like the style of Born Under a Bad Sign by Cream. Ba-dum-dum, 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 that kind of thing. But yeah, they were great. The other thing about Crimson and Blue, which was really something, it was a great band. We had John Safara from Glass Harp on drums, Phil Madeira, who's a fabulous keyboard player, and Wade Janes on bass. And occasionally Lynn Nichols played too. Yeah, Ashley Cleveland loaned her voice to the album too. And an album that was a lot of fun to do was Sunday's Child, because we had Mark Hurd, we had Russ Taff, Randy Stonehill, Alwyn Wall from Malcolm and Alwyn. Who else do we have in there? James Holohan, boy, Jimmy Lee Sloas. Great players. Rick Kua, gosh, it was a fun thing. It was really a musical party. It was so much fun to make that album. And but and I liked it, but I did Sunday's Child, Find Me in These Fields, which was very much like Sunday's Child. I think I like the songs a bit better personally, except for Mark Hurd's songs are fabulous songs. Everything Is All Right and I Always Do were Mark Hurd's songs. Mark was going to be on the Crimson and Blue album, and that's when he had his heart attack and departed from this world. But then after Fields, before Crimson and Blue, I did the Beyond Nature album.
Right.
That was my retreat. I had to, I was touring with the band, and I just wanted some quiet acoustic sounds and alternate tunings. And I was reading a lot of C.S. Lewis at the time, walking trails all the time. And it inspired that album. And I think it's one of my favorite projects I've ever done. We did an LP version of it where I edited down, and you don't miss anything. I really feel great about it.
I missed it when it came out. I missed the window to buy that, and but yeah, maybe one day again. Who knows?
Well, there was the fella that basically financed the LP manufacturing. He wants to do it again.
Okay.
So we might be able to get more.
There you go.
You okay?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Well, I'll let Joe ask his questions about Rich Mullins.
Okay.
I've known kind of your connections to Rich, and obviously through the Jesus record over the years. But to be honest with you, I really don't know much about your relationship with Rich. And so I was kind of wondering if you could just kind of take us back to the beginning, like kind of where you first crossed paths with Rich Mullins, maybe the first time you heard his music or the first time you met.
Well, I'd heard his songs on the radio back in the day, uh, Our God is an Awesome God and those kind of songs. But their Liturgy, Legacy and a Ragamuffin Band album was the album that really drew me into his music. And then he had friends in this town that he worked with, the Ragamuffins and, Rick Elias and Jimmy Abeg um, and a lot of those other folks who toured with him. And so I got to know him through those people. And we never were in the studio together. We hoped we were going to have that opportunity because around the time he passed away from the accident, that's when we were starting to become friends and communicating a bit more. And so I feel bad that we didn't have the opportunity to be creative together. I recorded a couple of his songs though, Hold Me Jesus. And then When Madeline Prays, which is a song I just absolutely love about this little baby that who couldn't see, who couldn't speak, and they even said she couldn't hear. She didn't live very long. But he loved this little child, and he would whisper in her ear, "Pray for Rich, pray for Rich," and because he just knew there was a spiritual connection. Oh, it's kind of an amazing story, actually.
Madeline fusses, Madeline laughs, and the angel who watches says, "Hey, look at that, there's your faith. Mountains will shake, 'cause God gladly bends just to hear Madeline when she prays."
So he wrote that song when Madeline Prays, and Michael Okafor, who also worked with Rich Mullins, he played the hammer dulcimer on that song for me. So you'll hear that hammer dulcimer, and it's not Rich playing it, it's Michael Okafor, who is a talented friend, and we've recorded together a little bit over the year.
'Cause God gladly bends just to hear Madeline when she prays. The only angels that I've ever seen.
It's a beautiful cover of the song. It's on one of your Backroom Tracks compilations. Did you ever consider putting that on an album?
I wonder if When Madeline Prays might have been on the a Cover of Love as a or Dream Again.
I know Cover of Love has your beautiful cover of the Paul McCartney song Some Days, which is from his Flaming Pie record, my favorite Paul McCartney album.
It's a great album. I love that album too.
Some days I look at you with eyes that shine. Some days I don't believe that you are mine. It's no good asking me what time of day it is, who won the match or scored the goal.
I like the song Flaming Pie. That's
I
really
do too. That's great. Calico Skies.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That's great. Another good McCartney album in his later years was Chaos and Creation, I thought.
Oh yeah, it's a terrific album.
I did get to play with him, Put It There and I'm Carrying, back when we had a chance to meet at a wedding. I sang at Linda McCartney's sister's wedding. That was pretty neat.
I've loved reading about that story.
Yeah.
In the pictures, the two of you on acoustic. Yeah.
So is it true you sang Put It There and he accompanied you?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I sang it on his brother-in-law's bed. It was a guest room, and I presented him this guitar from Jim Olsen as a gift, a left-handed Olsen, and he goes, "That's beautiful. It's fantastic." And he goes, "Where's yours?" And I go, "What's over there?" He goes, "Oh, get it." And I couldn't believe it. So here's a photo. It's amazing because he's one of the reasons why I became an artist.
Yeah.
Can you
That's
see
great.
that?
Yeah. That's great.
And actually, this particular picture, he and Linda signed.
Oh,
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
a year later, it was a friend of mine who went to England and got the autographs and then gave me the picture. Can you believe
Oh,
it?
very cool.
Well,
Okay.
Ringo and Paul are still rocking, aren't they?
yeah, they are.
They sure are. In fact,
Yeah.
Chris and I are both going to go see Paul this fall. Different
Yeah.
shows because we're in different parts of the country. But
Okay, good. Have a great time. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen him about 4 or 5 times. Saw him at Madison Square Garden, Memphis, Nashville, and I can't remember the other place. I think it was New York again. Yeah. I thought that was a great band he had, back with Flowers in the Dirt
oh
era.
yeah,
hmm
yeah.
And
Robbie McIntosh and
hmm
yeah,
yeah.
Hamish Stewart.
So there are a lot of artists today that I do really admire in the Christian music field. I still have great respect for Michael W. Smith and Andrew Peterson, um, and of course Jeremy Casella. I'm just grateful, old friends with been friends with Randy Stonehill for so long, and I always loved working with him, and he makes me laugh, so that's pretty fun. But back to Rich Mullins, I was so sad. I was so saddened that his life was, you know, cut short. But on the other hand, I think he longed for heaven too. So,
Well, you had an interesting opportunity that really not many people had, and that is you played. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but you played at the only tribute concert for Rich that ever happened while Rich was still with us at Cafe Milano in 1996 when his Songs album came out.
my goodness. No kid. That's right. That was a concert in his honor.
Yeah. And I know you were one of the performers. I think you did Hold Me Jesus, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And then there was at one of the Dove Awards presentations, I got to sit in with the Ragamuffins and I did that song there too. Everybody had bare feet in the band, that is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask you about Compassion in particular because you and Rich were both Compassion artists and did a lot of work for them. And I was just wondering if, yeah, I know in 1994 you both played on like a GMA showcase concert that was for Compassion. But I was just wondering if you had any memories of any other time you got to work with Rich as part of Compassion or just any conversations that you had with him about your work with them. Because I know that was really big in his heart.
It was definitely big in his heart. And I think he was even a whole lot more faithful to the cause of compassion than I was. I mean, I did my bit, and I still sponsor a child through Compassion. Ever since 1981 is when I first started sponsoring. My wife and I started sponsoring, and all through the years. But he actually and I did about 3 or 4 compassion trips abroad. Honduras and Ecuador and Haiti. Rich, he went to the Indian reservations and would teach children music. And I don't know if that was linked to compassion or just a passion that he had to just help young kids and enrich their lives with music. But we never did go on a trip together for the purpose of the compassion kids. But I really know he had a heart for children, and I think he had a childlikeness about himself that kids could recognize in him. You know, he was, like all of us, flawed. Saved by grace. But there was also this sense of Jesus in him that I loved. Because he longed to love people well. You know, but I didn't think he liked to put up with a lot of guff. you know, he was kind of the real deal.
This is kind of a deep question, and if you don't remember this, I wouldn't expect you to. But Rich once said that one of the great moments of his life was when you introduced him to Mark Farner of Grand Funk Railroad. Just wondered if you remember that meeting.
I don't. I don't know. I know I played on Mark's album on a couple songs, but yeah, we probably met over a GMA week. I think that's probably what happened. I was talking to Mark, and I don't know how it happened. Rich might have been walking by. I don't know. I don't remember the specifics of it, but isn't that something that he mentions that? Wow. No kidding. No kidding. And God bless Mark. God bless Rick Derringer, who recently just passed. You know,
Yeah.
he gave his life to the Lord, and I played on a couple of his songs. That one was never released. It's called The United States. You should hear it. It's a great little tune. Um, but yeah, I think he wanted to put something together and go on the road, but that was after COVID, and I'm pretty much I'm about 90% done with the road concert.
What you've had hand surgery, but you've also had a lot of projects. Like Cosmic Cathedral has come out, and as a band, I don't know if there's any plans with that, or if that's just kind of like one album and done, or anything else creatively on the horizon.
I've got two acoustic concerts coming up, one
Mm.
August, one in September, and
Mm.
one November. Then I have two band things that I have to do in October.
Hmm.
One is with Billy Smiley, Randy Stonehill, Randy Matthews, Love Song, Honey Tree.
Oh, I've seen the posters for that.
Yeah, in Huntsville, Alabama,
Yeah,
October 14th.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
another poster here. Look at this.
It looks like a classic Jesus music poster. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, that's great.
See that?
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to that. Billy Smiley and I wrote a song called Agape Love that we did a year ago. And that'll be fun to do. And then I'll do Time and What a Day. Maybe Sunday's Child with Randy. I'll do Lovely Jesus with Honey Tree, because I wrote that song back in 1972. And then I've got to do one gig with the Neil Morris Band. You know, that's in October 17th in White House, Tennessee, called Morris Fest. And we've been rehearsing. We've had 3 rehearsals. It's not an easy album to do because it's so progressive rock, and it's very detailed, and lot of energy goes into wood shedding and rehearsing. So we'll have 9 rehearsals for one gig. Yeah, I played through the pain on that album. You know, I had hand surgery. My thumb and my forefinger, they were locking up, triggering and locking up, and great pain. So they cut into my hand, and I was recovering. And so they sent me the files to that album, the Deep Water album, Cosmic Cathedral. It should have been called Neil Morris Band on number 42, because he's had so many bands. But I played through the pain. They sent me the files, and I got my solos just like I wanted them, exactly how I wanted them to be. And the sound, I got great guitar sounds on that, great solo sounds. And I sang on the album too. The song I sang on the album, I did in my own studio. And then I went up there and I did a lot of BGV stuff for Neil. One of the great highlights was getting to play with Chester Thompson, the drummer who played with Genesis for years, and Frank Zappa and Weather Report. He's just a wonderful, wonderful drummer. Byron House is a great bass player. And of course, Neil Morris himself is a genius, and he's just really a phenomenal musician and writer. But it's not my world. I don't really live in that prog world, you know, even though I'm a bit of a jammer, you know. I don't like to work that hard.
How did you get the news? Like, how did you hear that Rich had passed away? And how did you then end up involved with the Jesus record? Because you played it on, or you sang on All the Way to Kingdom Come, which, as far as I know, I do believe that's the last song that Rich ever wrote.
Yeah, and I think Rick Elias was producing that track. I don't know if he produced the whole album. I can't remember. But I love the tune. Where I heard that Rich had died, I was in Nova Scotia doing a concert in 97. Wasn't it around September 97?
Yeah, September 19th.
Got the news. I was with my friend who's road managing me at the time, John Hartley. And we got the news, and it made me so, so sad. And I have friends who were actually closer to Rich, spent more time with him, who were devastated by his passing. So it was an honor to be a part of that album. I mean, is it even around anymore? Can you find it?
It's basically out of print. Yeah, it's really a shame. It is on streaming services, and so you can listen to it on Spotify and all those
Oh,
places. But as far as buying a physical copy, I mean, it's never been on vinyl or anything like that. And if there's any album that deserves vinyl, I would say it would be, well, Liturgy and the Jesus Record.
oh yeah. And also, weren't there a lot of demos on the second part of that
Yes.
CD package?
Yeah, all Rich's original demos that he recorded earlier that month. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I do miss his voice not being there. But he's on the demos. That's great. Yeah.
Well, before we started taping, you mentioned a little bit of just kind of what you thought about, Rich personally as a person and as an artist. And I'm just wondering, like, why do you think it is that, so many of us are still talking about Rich Mullins all these years later?
Because he was authentic. I think that's one of the things. It's like what you saw on stage was the fella you would meet on the street, the same Rich. I think he was authentic. He also would admit his humanity. He was honest that way. I'm really grateful that he didn't want to play the game, the music business game. I also know that he gave his royalties away and lived on very little. You probably know that about him too, right? He was not attached to this world. I think there was a detachment that impressed a lot of people. He just loved God, he loved music, and he loved people well. And but he was very human. It's like Keith Green was very human. Keith and I got to be close friends. And when he died, I just wept, and you wonder why sometimes people go sooner than, you're sorry they go so soon, and they leave this earth too soon. We're all eventually going to get there, you know, you know, a different train is coming, but it's part of the same kingdom, you know. Train to Glory.
Yeah.
Remember
Jimmy Abegg has a song about that. I love that Jimmy Abegg song.
From his first solo album?
Yeah, I think it may be a second, but he's talking about the train and Jesus calls him on the train, him and his family. It's just a beautiful song.
I love Jimmy A. Jimmy A is a lot like Rich Mullins to me.
Yeah.
He really is. He's what you see is what you get. And unfortunately, he's dealing with severe blindness,
Yeah.
He only can see very little, very little. But I love Jimmy A. I think he's a great musician, and I like his voice too. I like when he sings, and I get to see him now and then, which I'm
Good.
happy about.
Jimmy's a wonderful human being. He's been a good friend to both of us and this podcast over the years, and
Fantastic.
love Jimmy.
Yeah.
And another friend who we had in common with Rich was Ben Pearson. And Ben went to Ireland and videotaped so many of those great videos of Rich. Ben is a fantastic photographer and videographer and a wonderful heart. I love Ben. And Ben was a lot closer to Rich than I was. I mean, I was just skimming the surface of who Rich Mullins was.
You mentioned that there was, were there actually, because I've heard rumors for years, and I don't know if this is true, but you kind of mentioned that you'd hoped to record with Rich. Were there ever discussions about that?
Yeah, we did. We talked about wanting to do that. He and I took a ride together in his Jeep, and we were talking about how exciting that could be. And it wasn't long after that the accident occurred. But we'll see him again. We will. God is good. If I could leave anything with anybody, it would be this. You have no idea how much the Father in heaven loves you. He loves you so much. And he loves you and me so much that he sent his only son to this earth to be our savior. So don't give up on God. I think God's not going to give up on you.
Phil, thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil.
It's been an honor, and thank you for all the gift that you bring everywhere you go.
God bless you guys. Blessing. See you next time.
It was wonderful to be able just to spend an hour with Phil Keaggy, and I don't know, truly one of the honors of my life. And as a reminder, you can find his Kickstarter. The page is still going to be there even after the campaign is over, but who knows? Maybe you have enough time to get there and get one of those Love Broke Thru copies. But not only that, this didn't quite come up in the interview, but it was briefly mentioned. They are doing a live album on vinyl from Glass Harp as well. And then they're also doing What a Day, his very first album, also on vinyl, if you wanted to get that as well. So there's a lot of great things on this Kickstarter. Also, worth noting is his Bandcamp page. And maybe the one problem is there's a couple of avenues that you can find, but just Google, Phil Keaggy Bandcamp, and you'll find plenty of things to keep you very, very busy. I think what they've done on Bandcamp is they've split it up into his actual formal album releases and then all of the extras, kind of the demos, the rarities, the basement stuff. So anyway, it's all out there. You can find it. You can subscribe like Joe has. And yeah.
Well, and that's the thing too. If you sign up for Keaggy's Garage, I mean, there's hundreds of these, rare demos and concert recordings. There's Glass Harp stuff from the 60s. There's a really cool cover that they did of Eleanor Rigby in 1968. Super psychedelic, very cool. But there's also the albums. Like his studio albums are included as part of that. So it's like, if you want to go and kind of complete your Phil Keaggy collection, there's more there than you can possibly imagine. Go check out Keaggy's Garage.
Yeah. And Joe, you mentioned, we were talking, it's kind of neat. Like Phil Keaggy himself is a fan of music. And you'll see that with the amount of covers that he does. And yeah, you can literally just spend, as you did on Ragamuffin Archive Revisited, just hours with his Beatles covers. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we mentioned the song Some Days, which from Flaming Pie. I mean, it's a great record, but it's not one of the records that most people think of when they think of Paul McCartney. It was a 1997 album. Some Days is probably one of the more obscure tracks on that album. It's a great song, and Phil does a great cover of it. And I was so surprised to find that in Keaggy's Garage. It's a big garage.
It's a
It's a 3-car garage. I'm telling you, that thing's massive.
Yeah. And there's a shed out back.
Yeah. There's stuff in the attic, the basement. They're storing it everywhere.
It's a whole storage facility.
I can't imagine Tom Galata's house.
Yeah, right. Tom Galata's house is just the continuation of the garage. You know what, though? I would say there's one decent major revelation, and this is something I didn't even think about in terms of what I wanted as a fan, is I definitely want the vinyl version of Crimson and Blue, including the blue version. I would also take the Sunday's Child, although that album means a little bit less to me. Crimson and Blue is my favorite Phil Keaggy album.
Well, this was something I actually wanted to ask you, Chris, because I'm with you like 110% on that. My hopes were dashed a little bit when I found out he didn't have the multi-tracks to that record. But yeah, I wanted to ask you that because you and I are the same age. We were both born in 1981. And Crimson and Blue is probably, well, it's not even probably, it's the first Phil Keaggy album that was on my radar. The very first Phil Keaggy song that I can, ever remember hearing was the Crimson and Blue version of I Will Be There. I saw the music video for it on one of the, Z Music or something.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to ask you about that, what your experience was with that album, because just, we both came into Keaggy's music much later than a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. So, to be honest, my initial introduction to Phil Keaggy is a little bit different. And it was just after Crimson and Blue, and I had to go back to Crimson and Blue. So it's two things. Number one is the album True Believers, which is a really funny Phil Keaggy album. Have you ever listened to True Believers?
I have that album.
What's funny about it, and I think,
and not in the Bandcamp. I have the physical album.
Yeah, I have the physical as well. What's funny about that, and he even talks about this, is like it's not really a Phil Keaggy album in the sense of like it's a pop album. It's a whole bunch of synthesizers and drum machines, and I mean, of course, his guitar is on there, but it's almost like the pop, formulation of what CCM wanted Phil Keaggy to be. I like it because there's some good songs on there, but it doesn't feel quite authentic. But I love the song True Believers. I love that song. That was followed, and here's where he really came onto my radar, because that was like a radio song, right? That was like, oh, here's this song on the radio. It was the trio Keaggy, King, and Dente.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually happened to see them in concert.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did. And I was a kid, so I wasn't fully getting what was going on, I was probably 12 or 13 or something like that. But I knew enough to go that, like, this is kind of crazy. Like, it's, here are these guys just kind of with these incredible music chops on stage. And, and Phil Keaggy, he kind of seemed like the patriarch there. He was the legend that was on stage, but they were all very, very good. So I saw that, and I really liked that album. And there was another, I think, what is it called? 220 or something like that. And it's an instrumental, kind of bluesy, classic rock album. So that's where I initially came into, like, oh, here's this guy, Phil Keaggy. Right.
Well, I'm very jealous that you got to see them, because I've heard so many great stories over the years from people who did go to those shows. I heard they were amazing. I saw Scott Dente a couple times because he's from my home state of New Jersey, but I never got to see the trio, and always wished I had. Yeah,
I'd love to see a recording, like a live version of those concerts.
Well, Chris, you need to sign up for Keaggy's Garage.
Because they're on there?
Because they're on there.
Oh my goodness. I haven't kicked around that corner of the garage yet. Okay, maybe I'll have to get there.
I had to look through. I think it was like in a cabinet or a toolbox or something, but they're there.
They're there. So to go back to Crimson and Blue, and this book has come up a number of times on the podcast, is whatever the top 100 CCM, CCM magazine albums. Crimson and Blue was on there, among other Phil Keaggy albums, especially How the West Was Won. I think Love Broke Thru was on there.
Now, so. I was shocked to hear his thoughts on that record, because in a million years, I would have never thought that album sounded bad.
Me either. Again, he's going to hear it differently, and if he wants to remix it someday, I'd be like, go right ahead. I don't know. I mean, I imagine he knows what he's talking about. I was just listening to a couple of songs from Crimson and Blue yesterday in preparation for the interview, just to kind of get into a different, like, listen to some of the early stuff, listen to the mid, in the 90s and stuff, and I don't know. I mean, it's just such an amazing album. We'll talk about this in another one of our podcasts, but it's interesting how many different artists have Beatles-esque influences. Yeah. And one of those artists is Billy Joel, right?
Oh, for sure.
And you and I just got River of Dreams on vinyl. And as I was re-listening to it, I was like, man, a decent amount of this stuff is very Beatles-esque.
Yeah.
And the only problem I have with River of Dreams is it kind of sounds a bit dated.
They definitely went with a more 90s production on that compared to some of the previous albums that he put out.
Yeah.
It's still probably my favorite Billy Joel
to
listen to because but pure nostalgia.
Yeah, it sounds more like an 80s version of Beatles-esque type of songs. And maybe that's why it hasn't quite lasted.
Yeah, as opposed to like the Nylon Curtain, which, that's an 80s album that sounds like 60s Beatles-esque. That's a
Yeah.
very Beatles sounding record.
Yeah. So again, no slight on Billy Joel because I don't.
I think he can take it.
He can at this point he can. But there's something about Keaggy's way of embodying his Beatles love that always feels very fresh to me. Like Crimson and Blue doesn't sound dated. It sounds like Wildflowers to me. Like it sounds like just a classic album. Sure, it's the 90s, but it very much is still alive.
Well, when I first heard or saw that music video for "I Will Be There," which kind of introduced me to Crimson and Blue, that would have been a couple years after the album was released. But I was a big, McCartney fan in the mid '90s, and I loved his '90s records, or '80s, '90s, "Flowers in the Dirt" and "Off the Ground," just great stuff. And when I saw that video and I heard that song, I thought, well, this is like the greatest song Paul McCartney never wrote. And I didn't even know it was a remake of an older Phil Keaggy song.
I will be there when you cry. I will be there when you need me. I will be there when you fall. I will be there all the time. All the time.
And so I just loved that version. And much like those McCartney albums, I've always kind of felt like those were a couple records that really aged pretty well as far as the sound and production on those records. I really felt like Phil, that was his version of a kind of a Flowers in the Dirt era McCartney song, and I just loved it, and I love that whole record. And yeah, I'm not going to completely lose hope. Somebody's got to find the tapes, right? They're somewhere.
That's what I was going to say. Whoever's listening to this, there's got to be somebody out here. Like, come on, track this down for Phil. Help Tom Gulata discover where the master tapes of Sunday's Child and Crimson and Blue are. Come on, what's going on?
Sunday's Child. The first time I ever heard that record was for a summer. I was working as a land surveyor. A friend of mine did land surveying, and they needed help. And so I was going out doing surveying on the weekends to make extra money. And this was in my early 20s. And one of the guys that worked there, he was an older guy, and he introduced me to Kerry Livgren, AD, one of their records. And Sunday's Child was another one that he introduced me to. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? Just another great record, right? But like you, I have a personal attachment to Crimson and Blue, but they're both great albums.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, at the end of the day, Phil Keaggy doesn't owe us anything. The gifts are out there. The deluxe versions of Crimson and Blue are up on Bandcamp if you really, really want to listen to them. It's just that if you like to own that physical copy on vinyl, that's not happening just yet.
I think you remember this too. Did you see, like, maybe it was like a year or two ago, somebody in one of the Christian music groups on Facebook posted they had sent out and had a custom Crimson and Blue vinyl made?
That's my friend Ethan Beckler. That's him.
Oh,
That's
really?
My friend. Yeah.
Oh, well, small world.
Yeah.
I was so jealous when I saw that.
Yeah, I need to talk to him and ask him, like, so does it sound okay? Or is it just kind of, it just feels good
I
to put
saw
it on
that
there?
and I legit thought about doing that with Liturgy.
Yeah, put Liturgy up there. Why not, right? At this point, Ethan, feel free to press 500 of those and send them out to all of your friends.
Christmas is coming up.
Yeah, come on, Ethan. Maybe Ethan can do a underground Kickstarter.
Maybe he could expand it to friends and friends of friends.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Ethan has been very generous to me over the years. We actually met at a Phil Keaggy concert, and he actually.
Oh, wow.
We knew of each other on Facebook. I think he kind of saw we live kind of close to each other, and then we ended up seeing. Yeah. Anyway, he's a great guy. So yeah, he's the guy. He loves Phil Keaggy that much. He actually put what do we call that? Is it like bootleg vinyl? I mean, what even is that? I don't even know.
I mean, that's ambitious bootlegging right there.
That's right.
Anybody can send a CD or a tape to someone, but
Yeah.
to go have
Yeah.
your own vinyl pressed, that's hardcore.
That's right. That's right. Oh, well, for those of us that are being patient, we will wait for Love Broke Thru and a few other Phil Keaggy albums to come out on vinyl here in the coming months. But thanks for listening. It's been great to have you, and hope you've enjoyed our conversation with Phil Keaggy.
I'm thinking about writing this new song. What do you think of this riff?
I like that. I like that. I want to put the little wood blocks like they add to them.
But you got good ears there, Chris.
Oh, I know that. I think I learned that solo once.
Yeah, where it modulates to G minor.
Oh yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, because then it's going to be an F. I love that song. In fact, you're not going to believe it, but Bern and I watched The Hard Day's Night last night.
Oh,
Did you?
Yeah.
I love it.
Since I've seen it, because we own the movie, and, gosh, 1964.
Yeah.
Most of the cars were black in London, I guess, in Britain.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I watched it with my family last year. It was the first time my son had ever seen it. He
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah.
It's so much fun, and it's very Marx Brothers-ish.
Yes.
Places.
I regularly say to my children, I say, "Give us a kiss." I say just to make them feel a little awkward. I say it all the time.
Make sure they don't say, swine.
Yeah, who's that little old man?
Bleeding Book.
Paul's grandfather.
Well, you know what?
Grandfather, I've seen your grandfather. He lives in your house.
Hey, that's a good George. That's a good George.
Not bad. That's not bad.
That's a really good George.